In this video, I want to talk about the top 5 books that I've read on money and my favorite books on money. If you want to learn more about money and get educated about money, which probably means you are able to attract more, then go ahead, read these and learn from the experts. Hey guys, Mike here from Sell Your Service. If you're a funnel builder, go ahead and subscribe because I produce new videos like this every single week, helping funnel builders like you attract, close, and find 5-figure marketing funnels. I want to talk about my 5 favorite books on money, especially for marketing funnels, kind of from the perspective of a funnel builder. I've got links to them all in the below, or of course you can go ahead and search for them. Go ahead and buy them from your local bookstore or ebooks. So my first favorite, in fact, I've got it up here, is Andrew Craig's How to Own the World. Andy is a mate of mine. We kind of met a long time ago and he was talking about his blog and I interviewed him on a podcast. I think you can still find it. It's when I worked with WP Elevation. This book literally changed my perception on what it is to be financially secure. What's interesting is I recommended this to someone the other day and they said, oh, you know, it was someone that we met and that I was saying how like pensions aren't going to exist in the future. And I know this to be true. A lot of people know this to be true, but I don't think a lot of people know this because they don't really want to accept it. This book explained why pensions aren't going to exist in the way we think they are in the future, but also what your pension really is. It's written in a UK perspective. However, the fundamental principles are globally applicable, and Andrew has got people all over the world. He runs a company called Plain English Finance, and this book basically outlined to me in plain English finance how to put aside money properly and invest it in shares and funds without having to kind of lose money or doing any of this kind of day trading shit nonsense. How to Own the World is a really interesting title because it talks about how you can put money aside and spread it and diversify, as a lot of people call it, into multiple different areas that you want to invest in, just like your pension does and just like any other like fund manager or whatever would do, but instead you're in control of it. The barrier to access for money has been lowered dramatically, and this book is literally the roadmap, and it even says stop reading here until you've done ... It's a roadmap on how to invest money, use the stock market, put money aside for a pension. Personally, and I'm full disclaimer, I'm obviously not a financial advisor or whatever. Don't take this as investment advice. My investments rise roughly 8% year on year, predominantly from the advice in this book. It's written really well. It's very funny in parts, and it kind of goes over some of the massive misconceptions about like property prices and all that kind of shit. How to Own the World by Andrew Craig, Plain English Finance, massively, massively powerful book on money. The second book is one I've got on ebooks, and I've got the audiobook version and the board games and all the other ones. Regardless of what you think of him, it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Now, Robert Kiyosaki in recent times has become slightly more controversial outside of the original content of the book. His ties to Donald Trump, some of his businesses have had financial problems. Irrelevant, this book reframed how I see spending money and how I spend being rich or being poor. It turns out that being poor is a choice through stories rather than lectures or kind of like hand-me-down moralistic kind of fables. Robert tells this story of how 2 people from very different backgrounds, one seemingly with everything to go for and one seemingly from a pretty rough background, how they have so completely different ideas on finance and financial situations. He has his rich dad who is relatively uneducated, doesn't have all of the stuff that people think would make him successful, and yet he becomes extremely wealthy. On the other side, his biological father, very well educated, very well respected in the education field, but then doesn't have any money. It turns out that money is not the thing that makes you rich or poor. It's your thoughts and processes around how you use money. Rich Dad, Poor Dad's been out for a long time. I highly recommend you go ahead and read it. It's a very easy introduction into how money works and how investments work. Personally, it helped me kind of and put me on a path to a better understanding of how I want to be wealthy and how I'm going to become wealthy. Book number 3, Money by Rob Moore, another UK author and entrepreneur. Rob Moore runs the podcast, I think like one of the world's #1 podcasts, The Disruptive Entrepreneur. I think the full title of the book is like Money, How to Spend It, Earn It, Use It, and Understand It or something. It's quite a long book. I got the audiobook and the ebook version, but it goes into the history of money, finance, currency, and predominantly around our mindsets around money. This was a really interesting book for me to read when I was starting to set up Sell Your Service, because it talks a lot about the sales process behind money and why salespeople should try to earn as much as possible, why all businesses should try to earn as much as possible, why morally earning more money means you're a better person, and why spending money also means you're a good person. It talks a lot about the psychology behind why we hate money, why we reject money, what it is we do and don't like about money. Fascinating book. Absolutely love Rob and love his work. The book Money by Rob Moore is a huge mindset shift in terms of thinking about why people think that rich people are wankers and why poor people struggle and that's what's noble, and flips it for you and helps you understand that actually making money does make you happier. My fifth book is a very practical book by a guy called Mike Michalowicz, Profit First. Mike's got a ton of books like The Surge as well as Clockwork. I'm a huge fan of Mike and all of his books, but Profit First put business finances in perspective for me. It helped me understand pricing. It helped me understand how I should use my money with my products and with my business, as well as talking through the practical steps that I could use to pay my taxes, pay my bills, pay my staff, start hiring, increasing my prices, and managing all of my money. Mike has got this really interesting way of kind of flipping again how you feel about pricing and why businesses do make money and why businesses don't make money. It's not necessarily a case of the product isn't good. It's not necessarily a case of the management or the business not being good. It's usually based around the fact that we don't really appreciate what profit truly is. And also it flips that kind of profit equation and helps me reaffirm the stuff that we learn in How to Own the World, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, as well as another book, which I haven't talked about today, called The Richest Man in Babylon by Rob Glasson, where it's basically profit equals expenses. Income minus expenses. A lot of people think that profit is your income minus expenses, and it's not. Income minus your profit equals expenses. So you take the profit out first, hence profit first, and then pay the rest of your expenses. Fascinating book. Absolutely loved it. Mike Michalowicz, Profit First. And my final book, bit of a left field one, is called Why Nations Fail by Daron Acemoglu. I'll put the link down below because his name's a bit unusual to spell. Daron wrote this book on why nations fail, talking through the economic rise and collapse of multiple kind of civilizations and economies that span, all the way back to kind of like 10,000, 20,000 years ago, up into the modern period. Why is it that some nations seem to do really, really well and some nations do very poorly? And a lot of it is around how they set up their economy and their systems of power. What's interesting is that as you begin to build systems of power within countries like, Kenya and Nigeria and the Congo and India that typically had a very hierarchical process, and you begin to put slightly different systems of power predominantly focused around the economy, free trade, capitalism, people's lives pretty much tend to improve. Absolutely fascinating book. Really helped kind of cement some of the broader ideas about what it is to be a capitalist, what it is to be an industrialist, what it is to have money, what it is to spend money or be in a free money economy. Daron Acemoglu, his book Why Nations Fail, very, very fascinating book. Pretty heavy going, definitely on the more advanced side, but if you enjoy reading about history and a little bit about economics as well as finance, you're going to find this fascinating because there's a lot of sociology and psychology behind it as well. Really, really interesting book. So those are my top 5 books on money. You've got How to Own the World by Andrew Craig, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, Money by Rob Moore, Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, and Why Nations Fail by Daron Acemoglu. I'd love to know what your favorite books are on money. If you have a favorite book on money, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to see that. If you're a funnel builder, go ahead and subscribe. I produce new videos like this every single week, teaching funnel builders like you how to attract and close 5-figure marketing funnels. In the meantime, guys, thank you so much for watching. I've probably got another couple of book reviews here about some other books that I've been reading and my review playlist that you can go ahead and check out. Go ahead and give me a like and a share. That really helps me and the channel out. I will see you on the next video. Keep building those funnels.